While I was in the hospital with a broken leg after a worksite accident, my partner posted pictures of himself with his ex at a bonfire, captioned, "Finally free from the needy drama queen and his constant demands. We'd been together for years." I didn't respond. This morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with desperate texts and his mother begging me to reconsider. The pain was white-hot, like someone had driven a nail straight through my leg and into the hospital bed itself. I could barely move without wanting to scream. The accident happened 2 days ago, a scaffolding collapse at the construction site. One second, I was shouting instructions. The next, I was on the ground with my leg twisted under a steel beam. My name's Aaron. I'm 34. I live in San Diego. I've spent most of my adult life on job sites, doing project management for big commercial builds. I'd always been the guy who kept moving, kept building. But now, I was stuck, laid out in a white room with white lights and no sense of what came next. The nurse had said Milo was here the day of the surgery. He brought flowers, apparently. I must have been too drugged to remember. He came by once more the next morning, stared at my leg for 30 seconds, mumbled something about being overwhelmed, then kissed my forehead and left. That was it. After that, it was Nolan. Nolan, my best friend since freshman year at Cal Poly, showed up that night and just stayed. He brought an overnight bag, a tray of takeout, and a no-nonsense look on his face. By morning, he was adjusting the pillows behind my back and clipping my toenails, because apparently I'd been asking about them in my sleep. When the nurses changed my dressings, he stepped out without making it awkward. When I cried, really cried, from the frustration of being immobile, he didn't flinch, just handed me a towel and said, "Let it out, man." Better than holding it in. It was day 4 when it happened. Nolan was adjusting the TV remote and scrolling through his phone, probably checking football scores, when he just froze. "You okay?" I asked. He turned the screen toward me. There it was, a bonfire party photo, palm trees and tiki torches in the background, Milo front and center with his ex, shirtless, naturally, laughing with his head thrown back like a movie character. The caption underneath read, "Finally done babysitting the emotionally high-maintenance one." I stared at it for a long time. My hands started shaking, not from pain, not from shock, even, just this dull, low rage that started in my chest and spread. I didn't say anything right away. Didn't ask Nolan to explain. Didn't ask who took the photo or why Milo posted it publicly when he knew we still shared friends. I just lay there, silent. Inside my head, though, a different scene was playing. I started cataloging. The rent I covered the month Milo forgot, his client check was coming late. The groceries I bought because he was between gigs. The time he left me stranded at a work dinner because networking gave him hives. The constant, endless neediness dressed up as charm. It wasn't a bonfire Milo had gone to, it was a celebration. A victory lap for finally dumping the guy who dared to be injured and vulnerable. I looked over at Nolan, still holding the phone like it might explode. "Hey," I said, my voice hoarse. "Can you help me get cleaned up?" He nodded and set the phone down gently. I knew then that Nolan had already deleted the app. Probably blocked Milo, too. But I wasn't mad at Nolan. I wasn't even really mad at Milo. I was just done. Something in me broke that day, but not in the way everyone expected. Not in a way that meant I needed saving. I'd been crushed physically, yeah, but emotionally? I was wide awake now, and it was time to start tearing down the rotten structure I'd built my love life on. We met during the Riverside flood cleanup. That was 5 years ago now. I had been assigned to coordinate environmental safety inspections, checking for soil runoff, standing water contaminants, that kind of thing. Not glamorous work, but necessary. I remember showing up with my clipboard, boots soaked by noon, when this guy in cut-off jeans and a bandana stepped out of a broken canoe like he was in a photo shoot. "Need help pulling driftwood?" he asked, grinning. "I'm the driftwood duke." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. That was Milo. He explained, dramatically, of course, that he was collecting flood debris to make found art pieces. He held up a chunk of splintered wood like it was the lost Ark of the Covenant. "Trash becomes treasure," he said, eyes gleaming. "You just have to see it right." I should have clocked it right then. The self-mythologizing. The grandiose way he spoke about everything, even garbage. But I didn't. I laughed. I offered him gloves. We spent the whole afternoon hauling broken fence panels and tree limbs out of the waterlogged park. By the end of the week, we were getting drinks. By the end of the month, he'd left a toothbrush at my place. He never paid rent on time. Always had a reason, freelance money stuck in PayPal, an overdue invoice, a check he swore was in the mail. I'd spot him, thinking I was being a good partner. We were building a life together, right? You don't nickel and dime someone you love. But it was never temporary. Milo would float from project to project, never quite landing on anything. One year it was handcrafted bookbinding. The next it was a podcast that never made it past episode 2. I bought the mic, of course. I bought most things. He made me feel needed. That was the trick. He'd show up with dinner sometimes. Guilt pizza, I used to call it, and act like he was doing me a favor. You're the strong one, he'd say. I'd be lost without you. And that felt good. Until it didn't. Now, lying in a hospital bed with screws in my leg and a plastic bag for a urinal, the whole history sat heavy in my chest. Trash becomes treasure, he used to say. No, rotten wood stays rotten. You can sand it, seal it, paint it gold, but the inside stays hollow. I wasn't the one floating aimlessly. I was the raft. I kept us above water while Milo called it adventure. He got to drift. I had to carry the weight. And now he was gone, off to another bonfire. Another story where he was the one who escaped. But not this time. I was done building rafts for people who didn't want to row. The idea hit me sometime around 4 in the morning, when I couldn't sleep through the throb in my leg or the ache in my chest. Milo was gone. Social media made that abundantly clear. But his surfboard was still leaned against our bedroom wall, his record player still plugged in next to the books he never read. Every item of his still in that apartment felt like it was smirking at me. I opened my phone and started making a list. I wasn't just evicting him. I was reclaiming my space, my peace, my damn fridge. By morning, I had 3 calls lined up. First was my landlord, Cheryl, who'd always liked me because I paid on time and didn't complain. I explained what happened. She paused, then said, "Do what you need to do, Aaron. I'll hold the spare key." Next, I called my brother Caleb. He didn't ask questions, just said, "Tell me when. I'll bring gloves and garbage bags." Last was Nolan. "You sure?" he asked, though his tone said he was already halfway to the car. "I'm sure." 2 days later, while I was stuck watching hospital TV and trying not to scream during physical therapy, Nolan and Caleb were boxing Milo's entire life into storage bins. Apparently, there was a lot of it. 3 surfboards, 2 of them custom. A full set of expensive bar tools he never used because I was the one who actually made cocktails. Books Milo collected for aesthetic, most of which were still shrink-wrapped. Clothes. Records. Some weird taxidermied crow in a shadow box labeled Mortimer. They spent 6 hours hauling it all out. "Where should we drop it?" Caleb texted. I replied with one word: donation. We called the community center where Milo used to pretend to volunteer. He stopped going once someone actually asked him to sweep. They agreed to take what they could and trash the rest. Nolan made sure anything important, his ID, his passport, a few heirlooms from his grandmother, got handed off to Cheryl with a sticky note, "Hold for pickup. Tenant removal per Col-SC." Then I did it. I opened the smart home app on my phone, the one Milo used to mock me for loving, and hit the button that said, "Lock override." I changed the code, removed his access from the tenant account. One beep, and just like that, he was locked out. I lay back in bed, the hospital sheets still scratchy, and felt something strange bloom in my chest. Not guilt, not regret. Relief. This was the part no one talks about, the cleanup. The part after the heartbreak, when love turns into clutter, and you have to shovel your way back to breathing. I wasn't just getting rid of his things. I was getting rid of the version of myself that thought love meant carrying someone. My apartment was going to be mine again. No more shared space. No more pretending his mess was charm. No more Mortimer. I texted Nolan later that night. Me. "Did you burn the crow?" Nolan. "Recycled it with respect. I think he deserved better too." I smiled. For the first time since the accident, it didn't feel like the walls were closing in. It felt like the opposite. I had been crushed once, but now, I was building something again. This time, I was making sure the foundation was mine. 3 weeks after the accident, I was off the heavy pain meds and thinking a lot more clearly. My body still hurt, sure, but my brain was sharper than it had been in a long time. Sharp enough to realize that if I didn't take control now, Milo would keep floating through life untouched while I carried the bill. Again, that wasn't happening. I opened my laptop and pulled up an email chain from 8 months ago. It was the one I'd written to my old mentor, vouching for Milo when he was struggling to get a foot in the door at Capstone Creative Finance. Innovative thinker, I'd said, would thrive in a flexible, fast-paced environment. What a joke. I drafted a new message, short and professional. "Hi Taylor, hope you're well. I wanted to flag something about Milo Jarvis, who I recommended last year. Unfortunately, I've recently discovered that Milo has been misrepresenting his employment history, has significant unpaid debts, and is currently making public social media posts that could reflect poorly on your team. Please find attached documentation. Best, Aaron McCall." Attached were screenshots. Milo with his ex at the bonfire, laughing while the caption trashed me. A record of his rent debts, which I'd covered directly through Zelle transfers from my account, and an email he once sent to a supposed client, where he copy-pasted a fake job title at Capstone, something I hadn't even known about until I started digging. It didn't take long. By noon the next day, Nolan texted, "Dude, Milo just posted a Notes app apology about losing a career-defining opportunity." I checked my inbox. Nothing from Capstone, but that was fine. I didn't need confirmation. I already knew how that firm operated. No drama, no explanations, just a closed door and a scrubbed LinkedIn profile. What came next was predictable. The messages started pouring in, first from Milo. "Milo, are you serious right now? Milo, you vindictive piece of shit. Milo, you ruined everything. Milo, you happy now?" And then the tone shifted. "Milo, I didn't mean any of it. I was drunk. Milo, please, let's talk. Milo, I'm scared. Aaron, I don't know what I'm doing." I didn't reply. Then his mother called. Andrea Jarvis, former yoga instructor, current life coach, and professional enabler. 44 missed calls, 5 voicemails. The last one was longer. "Aaron, this is Andrea. I can't believe you would go this far. You know Milo's sensitive. He was already struggling emotionally, and you chose now to destroy his reputation? Do you realize what you've done? He might not recover from this. You need to grow up and stop trying to control people's lives just because you're hurt. Be the bigger person." I saved the voicemail, forwarded it to my brother. He replied with a laughing emoji, and God, she's exhausting. Then I opened a new email, this time addressed to Andrea. "Hi, Andrea." Attached are copies of Milo's debts, receipts of rent I've paid on his behalf, and documentation of misrepresentation to Capstone Creative. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped covering for him. Aaron, that night, I slept harder than I had in weeks. No nightmares, no pain spikes, just quiet. It turns out, revenge doesn't always look like rage. Sometimes it looks like clicking send with a clear conscience. I wasn't being vindictive. I was being done. I finally answered her 44th call. Andrea's voice hit my ear before I even said hello. "You really think humiliating my son and ruining his life is some kind of win, Aaron?" I let her vent. She paced through every flavor of accusation: manipulative, heartless, insecure. Claimed I had always been jealous of Milo's spirit, that I couldn't handle being the less artistic one. "You always had to be the martyr," she snapped. "The one who suffers so everyone claps." Well, guess what? No one's clapping anymore. You've crossed a line. He was vulnerable, and you kicked him while he was down. I let her finish. I waited until her breathing turned shallow, like she was gearing up for another monologue. Then I spoke. "Do you want to hear the receipts or not?" "What?" "The rent ledger, the meal transactions, the health insurance I added him to and paid out of pocket because he said he was between providers. The $3,400 bar tab I covered when his card was declined, and he promised he'd pay me back next paycheck, which never came." Silence. I kept going. I had nothing to lose anymore. I've got emails from 3 separate people confirming Milo lied about working at Capstone before they even offered him the job. I've got Venmo screenshots with emojis that suddenly aren't so cute in hindsight. And I've got video footage of him driving my car, without a license, after I told him not to. Andrea let out a shaky breath. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you need to understand. Your son didn't slip. He didn't make a mistake. He used me for 4 years while you cheered from the sidelines and called it growth. That's not fair. He told you I was unstable, didn't he?" I asked. Said I needed him, that I was clingy and emotional, too intense, too serious. Andrea didn't answer. "He told you he paid for things, that I was holding him back. Maybe he even said I threatened to hurt myself if he left." She let out a small, stunned gasp. "And that's when I knew he had said all of it. He lied to you," I said quietly, "over and over. And you believed him because it was easier than admitting your son has been coasting through life on the kindness of people he doesn't respect." I didn't know," she said finally. Her voice was small now. "He said you were. He painted you as someone totally different." "I know. That's how he does it." Another long pause. Then, so softly I almost missed it, she said, "I think I need to reevaluate everything." "You do," I said, "for your sake, and for the sake of anyone else he might pull into his orbit." She sniffled. "I'll call you again. Just, not today." I didn't say goodbye. Just hung up and stared at the ceiling. 3 days later, she sent an email. Subject line: "I'm sorry." It was short. She said she had believed Milo because she wanted to. Said it wasn't fair to me, and it certainly wasn't healthy for him. Attached was a scanned deposit slip, $2,000 from her personal savings, labeled partial restitution. No strings. She ended with, "Thank you for telling me the truth. I'm sorry it took this long to hear it." I read it twice. Then I closed the laptop. Some stories finally start to shift when someone stops defending the wrong version. The box showed up at Nolan's building like it was some kind of peace offering from a movie villain. No warning. Just a knock on the door and a confused delivery guy holding what looked like a miniature tree made of beach trash. Nolan texted me a photo. Bro, did Milo mail you a driftwood altar? It was worse than it looked. A tangled mess of bleached sticks, bits of sea glass, fishing line, and bottle caps all glued together in some kind of swirling, chaotic sculpture. At the top sat a cheap silver ring, nestled into a hollow carved into the wood. And taped to the side was a note, scribbled in Milo's familiar handwriting. From broken things, beauty can rise. Let's rebuild. I stared at the screen for a solid minute. Then I laughed so hard I pulled a muscle in my side. I was wheezing by the time Nolan called me. You good? He asked. I think I broke a rib, I gasped. Tell me you didn't bring that thing inside. Hell no, he said. It's still in the lobby. The ring's already falling off. Good, I said. Do me a favor? Say the word. Recycling bin. Recorded. Nolan was kind enough to send me a slow-motion video of the sculpture clattering into the green bin like a fallen Jenga tower. Milo must have figured out I wasn't feeling sentimental, because what followed was a full-on social media spiral. He posted a photo of the sculpture with the caption, "Some people don't understand art. Some people only destroy what they can't control." Then came the begging phase. Instagram stories of him in a hoodie, walking along the beach, voice cracking as he talked about the one who got away. At one point, he actually cried into the camera and whispered, "I'm trying, okay? Doesn't that count for something?" I didn't respond. He started a crowdfunding page next. Help me rebuild. A journey of healing. The goal was $10,000. The page featured pictures of him looking devastated and holding a ukulele he never learned to play. I checked back 2 days later. He had raised $80. Most of it from some girl named Becca who kept commenting, "You deserve better." That was when it all started unraveling. Milo's ex, the ex from the bonfire, left a comment under the fundraising post. "This man owes me $1,200. Do not give him a dime." Then one of my neighbors chimed in. He lived rent-free for over a year. Ask Aaron McCall for receipts. I didn't even have to lift a finger. The people Milo had used, charmed, and discarded were finally talking. Someone shared the screenshots of his earlier post, the one where he'd called me emotionally high maintenance, and matched the date to the night I was still in the hospital. By the end of the week, his page was flagged for fraud. He tried spinning it, of course, said it was all a misunderstanding, claimed the campaign was supposed to fund an art therapy retreat and not personal expenses, but no one was buying it. People had screenshots now. People had memories. And the internet doesn't forgive like real life does. One last post showed up on his story. Just a blurry image of a bonfire and the words, "You try to do something meaningful and they burn you for it." I watched it expire after 24 hours like the dying ember it was. He had tried to make art out of garbage. But some things don't become treasure just because you arrange them nicely. Some things stay trash, especially when they're held together with lies and glue. I didn't need to say a word. The truth had started speaking for itself. I could have stopped there. Honestly, I wanted to. Let him spiral in peace. Let the mess he created swallow him up without me lifting another finger. But then I opened my credit card statement. There it was, an account I never opened. My name, my address, but not my spending. Someone had used it to buy a $600 vintage lamp and a box of rare vinyl records. Milo's exact taste. Milo's fingerprints. Milo's screw-up. He hadn't just used me emotionally. He'd used my identity. I spent the next 2 hours calling the bank, filing a fraud claim, and collecting everything I had: emails, text receipts, voice notes where he dictated my SSN to a delivery guy because he couldn't find his own card. It was all there. This wasn't just a messy breakup anymore. This was criminal. I started compiling a dossier. No exaggeration. A full PDF. Dates, screenshots, open balances, links to social posts, a list of shared accounts, canceled payments, and the fraud report confirmation. Then I drafted a mass email. Subject: Please read. Urgent note regarding Milo Jarvis. Hi all. I'm sending this to friends, extended family, and anyone who's recently interacted with Milo. This isn't meant to embarrass anyone, but to protect you. Milo has opened credit cards under my name, failed to repay thousands in debts, and has created a fake crowdfunding page for personal gain. Attached are screenshots, reports, and documentation. If you've loaned him money or plan to, I urge you to reconsider. Please do not lend, co-sign, or share your financial info. Stay safe. Aaron. I sent it to 28 people. The replies started rolling in within hours. Some were stunned. Some apologized for believing him. Some didn't respond at all, but one reply made me stop cold. From Jenny Jarvis. Subject: That son of a bitch. Aaron. He told me you needed help covering car repairs and rent after you kicked him out unfairly. I wired him $2,000 last week. I should have known. Jenny, his cousin. $2,000. Gone. I called Jenny. She sounded more angry than hurt. He cried on the phone. Aaron said he was living in a car. I believed him. He might actually be, I said. But it's a car he conned someone else into leasing. Later that night, Nolan sent me a video. Milo was at my old building, pacing outside, banging on the intercom. His voice echoed through the speaker. Aaron, I just want to talk. Come on, man. I'm sorry. I'll pay you back. Just open the door. He looked thinner. His clothes were wrinkled. But the desperation? That was new. And it wasn't for me. It was for an audience. I didn't go down. Didn't call the cops. I just texted Cheryl, our landlord, and she confirmed he was trespassing. She called it in herself. Turns out Milo had racked up unpaid parking violations too from months back, when he still used my permit. So when the officers showed up, they ran his name. One outstanding warrant for fines and vehicle misuse. He didn't even fight it. Cheryl called me later that night, laughing. Your boy got cuffed in flip-flops. I found out from Caleb the next day that it wasn't Andrea who bailed him out. It was his brother. The one who cut ties with him years ago but showed up this time with one condition. Get a job, pay rent, no more stunts. Milo didn't post anything for a week. No beach photos, no late-night rants, no healing poetry. The world was finally quiet. I'd spent years trying to carry a person who didn't want to walk. Now, the weight was off. He wasn't just my ex anymore. He was just someone else's problem. 3 months later, I moved into a new place. It wasn't big, just a one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of a quiet building in University Heights. Nothing flashy, but it had what I needed. Good light, solid walls, and a balcony that caught the morning sun. The day I signed the lease, I sat on the floor, still in my walking boot, legs stiff from rehab, and let myself breathe. I didn't bring much with me, just the essentials, the things that felt like mine. My old books, the battered cast-iron skillet I loved, a framed photo of me and Nolan at the 2016 Chargers game. The rest had been sorted, donated, or trashed. There was no Milo in this apartment, no shared bookshelf, no statement pieces, no drifting presents taking up air and never giving anything back. My physical therapy sessions were twice a week. I hated them, but I went. I pushed. I learned to move again without wincing. The boot would come off soon, and with it, one more reminder of everything that had broken. One morning, I sat out on the balcony with a cup of coffee, staring at the empty planter box nailed to the railing. I'd never had a green thumb, but something about it made me want to try. So I went to the local nursery and bought starter herbs, basil, thyme, and mint. I liked the simplicity of it. Water, sun, patience. No need to fix, explain, or rescue. Just grow. A few days later, Andrea emailed me. She wanted to meet for lunch. Part of me hesitated, but she'd been quiet since the last time. No guilt, no lectures, just silence and that one deposit. We met at a little diner near my new place. She looked tired, older than I remembered, but her eyes were steady. I wanted to give this to you in person, she said, sliding an envelope across the table. Inside was a cashier's check for $2,000. My money, she said, not his. He doesn't even know about this. I nodded, tucking it away without a word. No grand forgiveness, no dramatic scene, just closure, plain and simple. I hope you're okay, she said. I am, I replied, and I meant it. Back at home, I stood on the balcony, snipped a few basil leaves, and tossed them into a pan of pasta. Nothing fancy, just dinner, but it felt good, like something new was settling into place. Later that night, my phone buzzed. An email from Milo. Subject line, just one last thing. I didn't open it. I stared at the screen for a second, then tapped and dragged it straight to the trash. No hesitation. Some messages don't need reading. Some chapters don't need revisiting. Outside, the herbs were leaning toward the light, reaching, steady, unbothered. So was I.